Thank you. This is great to see all these smiling faces in here and to see this room full. It's a great way to wind up this Wilderness Wildlife Week event. Having Bill Landry here just prior to this, and then having this wonderful panel, and it just shows how much interest there is in our history and our heritage, and we appreciate all these panelists for coming out and sharing with us today. I guess I'm killing time here. Chester's still trying to get set up with his video. We always want to videotape these sessions, and so we can preserve some more of our heritage here. I too want to thank a lot of people, and there's no way I can name everyone, but we're so delighted to have Bob and Karen Easton back working with us again, and helping our staff, our special events staff. These folks, y'all don't really realize how long they work on this program probably. It goes on as soon as this event's wrapped up. They'll start working on next year's event, and they'll work on it for a year to get it there, so that it's enjoyable for y'all, and hopefully it's seamless for you, and you don't see anything that you don't like. We do have slip-ups occasionally, just like anything will. When you've got as many events, 9 days, 12 hours a day, there's a lot of opportunities for mistakes. But again, hopefully y'all don't see many of those mistakes. We're the ones who see a lot of those mistakes. And our staff really tries very hard to make this an event that y'all will enjoy and will want to tell your friends about. And hopefully this event will continue to grow. We see in the future that this is going to be probably within the next year or so in several different facilities. We feel like we've about outgrown this facility and need to keep this event growing. And in order to do that, we're probably going to have to move to some other facilities. We probably will continue, if Jess and Linda will allow us to stay at this facility. We'll continue to use this facility, but maybe we can run trolleys from one facility to another, so it won't be a burden for anybody. But anyway, we always see good things for this event, and again, please thank our volunteers. They have name tags on. A lot of these folks have been here just as much as our staff, and the pay that they get is really the only pay they'll get is if you'll say thank you to them and give them a pat on the back. And we could not do that event without our volunteers. Getting close, Chester. I'm running out of voice. Okay. Again, thank you so much for coming for this event. This is a highlight for us to end this event this week with such a distinguished panel up here. And what I'd like to do is turn the platform over to my good friend Veta King. Veta was she's a native Sevier County, and she is the former director of the Department of Tourism, and she's the reason that I'm here. She asked me to come to Pigeon Forge and work for her, and then I got her job when she retired to be a full-time mom, and Downey and Allison and Tyler are here somewhere in the audience, so her life. So if you would, just give Veta and my good friend Jerry Ware and this wonderful panel, let's make them feel a good Pigeon Forge welcome.
Welcome, and we appreciate all of you who have come today. Those of you who have been here before know what a treat you're in for, and those of you who haven't been here, you soon find out what a treat you're in for, because this turns into real lively discussions from time to time, and we learn a lot about our past. All of us are kind of looking forward to the new millennium coming, and the end of 1999, and we're going to be faced with a lot of changing technologies, but the people that are here today have probably seen the greatest changes. We'll see a lot of changes in our day, but the people that are here on this panel have probably seen more changes in their lifetime than any generation in the past, and maybe any generation in the future, because it's come from just a very bare life to all the modern technologies that we have today. I've been looking at some of the newspapers, the old newspapers from 1905, just to give you an example of some of the changes that these folks know about. The folks in those days would say that a common cold could be cured in one day with something called lax bromoquinine, and they would cure the cough with honey and tar, and they were saying you wouldn't use a cough syrup that had opiates in it because it could kill your children. There were just so many things that were so different than the lives that we have today. They would talk about the school teachers who make $25 a month, and that's just no comparison to what we see today. But I just wanted to bring that up to get us started. I want to introduce Jerry Ware. He's a local historian, and he'll guide us through our discussions today, and we'll turn the program over to him.
I'm very glad to be here. I have a very good panel. We just help us collect a group of experts of the area. These people have lived here. It's their families who established this area. They're from all pioneer stock, and they have lots of fine stories to share with you. But they have some personal experiences that's truly amazing. And today I hope they'll share some of those things with us. We're going to start on our end down here with Mr. Ossie Ownby. Mr. Osie, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, and something about your parents and your brothers and sisters. We'll just do that as an introduction and let you introduce you by letting us know who your family was.
I was born in Knoxville way back yonder, 1909. And girls, don't let this hair piece I'm wearing fool you. I'm really an old man. Nobody believes it, but that's darn true. He's my first cousin. He knows it. Well, yeah. Mom and Dad lived in Knoxville, and they were working. Mom was working for $5 a week at Hall Table company down there making clothing. She was a machine operator, and my dad was a barber. And I got about 3 years old. They shipped me back to up on the head of Baskins up there. And one of my uncles took me. I was about 3 years old, but I don't remember a thing about that. But my memory starts, I would say, along up about 4 or 5 years old. When I rolled a rock down the hill, and the rock, little old rock, jumped and hit my grandfather's hand. About then, when my memory started. 2 or 3 good whoopings. He sure did. But I grew up on Head of Baskins up there in the old days. Went to school in an old log schoolhouse, and we had church in the same schoolhouse there. When I was getting up about, I would say about 10 or 11 years old, I would go to Knoxville and live with my mother and my dad there quite a while. I saw the old market house in Knoxville. How many have seen the old market house in Knoxville? I was around that old market house there. My Uncle Preston let me ride an apple wagon from the Head of Baskins down to Knoxville. Took about 2 days to get there. That was way back yonder, let me tell you. And there's a lot of other interesting things about Knoxville. But you want to hear about the Smoky Mountains? Yeah, well, let's get back in the Smoky Mountains there. Me and Herb here, there wasn't no drugs back in that day and time, praise the Lord. Me and Herb didn't know what drugs was. We didn't do nothing but squirrel hunt and possum hunt and fish and go camping. We camped all over the Smoky Mountains. I've been to Mount Pecan about 15 times as a young boy. Camped in Newfound Gap when the road was being built. I remember the building of that road. We didn't have bulldozers back then. Big stout men and picks and shovels, mules and horses. Finally a grader come along about 1926 or 27, graders come along. But I was in the Pi Beta Pi school around about 1924, 25, 26, and 27. I was along there. And I remember hearing dynamite blasting away the mountains up there, building the road across the Old Smoky. Yeah, I was there. I saw that. And I heard all that dynamite and all that shooting there, building the road across the mountains. I grew up in Gatlinburg quite a bit, on the Head of Baskin, but when I got in school down there, I knew Charlie Ogle pretty well. I knew old Eve Ogle. I asked him one time, why do you wear a belt and a pair of Gallus's bows? He said he wanted to hold his britches up. But I knew Andy Huff. I knew Andy Huff quite well. He invited me to bring my guitar and play for some tourists in his hotel there. Andy was a great one. Yeah, he employed a young woman there that I got to courting now. He didn't want me to court the woman, he wanted to play the music, but I was interested in this girl, you know. I went to high school with her, and I'm doggone, she was a valedictorian of the senior class, and I married a smart woman, a good woman, and our son, he went to the University of Tennessee. He's one of the presidents of Oklahoma State University now. Yeah, so I married smart. I married a good woman and a smart wife. It paid off. Getting back to Pi Beta Phi, I knew Miss Evelyn Bishop, O.J. McKill, all those great people back in that day and time. And they were good people, honest people, and they gave me a chance. And I was working, they have a farm there, and I did farm work. I tended to horses and did a lot of other work around the barn with a pitchfork. You know what I mean? And would you believe that they allowed me 15 cents an hour? I worked my way through high school at 15 cents an hour. And when I got out of high school at Murphy College down there, I didn't owe nobody anything. I had money in the bank. I think I had about $75 at 15 cents an hour. For God's sake, that is the truth. Have I took my time, Lou?
Well, we'll have more time, but let's let Herb tell us a little bit about himself. Herb.
Well, I was born on the road in Fork, and I don't care to tell my age in 1911 if you can got enough fingers. At the age of 14, I moved to the head of the road in Fork, about a half a mile below Grotto parking lot. But Grotto parking lot was one of the fields I tended in corn, and everybody tended corn because you lived off of corn. I told them corn is money in the bank. You make a good crop of corn, use a setting. But if you didn't, you was going to smell the patching, as the saying is. I lived there for 19 years, and I walked about a mile and a half down the road and forth to the schoolhouse. And we started usually, and I'll tell you one on Osie here. Osie is always a little sharper than I was. We're first cousins. We've been together, like he said, all our life. We've been two of the best buddies you've ever could get together. I've never been one speck mad at him in my life, and I'd say the same thing to him. We camped together, hunted together, fished together, went to school together, went to church together, plowed, hoed corn together. About anything that you could find as boys, we growed up together. He's been a better buddy to me and any of my brothers, but he was a little sharper than I was. He started out and he was going to my brother Charlie's school. Brother Charlie tells me, Brother Charlie is the one over in the rest home now, be 102-year-old, the 4th day of March. Anyway, he said he took Osie in, and Osie sharp enough till he went through kindergarten into the first reader, the first year. The most of us had to stay at the kindergarten. That's what we call it the primer. Stay at the primer the first year, then the next year the first reader, then we'd make a year, every year till we got through the 8th reader. We really call it readers, not grades. Now it's turned to grades, but we'd ask what class you got in the 6th reader and the 5th reader. We let that tell which each grade had a different reader. But we've been two of the best buddies, and I don't know what you could find. Any two done anything we could. I even learned his track when he's barefooted. Go along and see if Osie's been long, you know. We did go barefoot the first usually the shoes we'd have maybe in fall about the time they'd go to frosting or the first snow. We'd get in order to get shoes, then we'd have to go back on the hill and pick up chestnuts and build us up a little money to buy us a pair of shoes. In the fall, you got one pair now, you can get all the shoes you want to, but back then, we got a pair, and usually we'd get us a Sunday pair. Have a sort of a little nicer pair we'd wear to church, and But usually we went to school, we went back with timber toe tied, and we'd hit them rocks with the toe, skin the toe off, the hide off of it, we'd go come back. We'd see that big rag tied around his toe, where he tied the toe, skin it over a rock. I'd wear that a few days, and then he'd come next day to have another toe tied up. The road was very rocky. And there wasn't no blacktop, no asphalt, it was just dirt. And horses traveling the road digs up the dirt, the water washes it off and leave you a rock. You could walk from my house to the schoolhouse and not touch a bit of dirt if you wanted to, if you don't just step on the rocks. We didn't work it that way, but that's the reason we kept our toes tied up where we could get them over a rock. In our schooling days, usually come Friday, we liked that nearly the better because the teacher was my brother, and usually if your brother might get by a little more, but I don't know where your brother will help you much when it comes to getting by in school. But we'd line the benches. We didn't have pews. We'd line it was the same benches we used to see set for church. We'd line them up down one side, up the other side, or whichever, and we'd choose up. And I'll say, I'd be number one, I'd take the best speller. Osie number two, he'd take the next best speller. We'd get the best speller because I was trying to outspell him. And we'd use all Friday evenings in the spelling bee. That's where you might learn to spell a lot of things that you don't. Fleeing was one of the words that got by us, and we'll say now if we was all here in the spelling bee, we missed it all up to come to Osie spell it. He got to turn us all down and skip on down, make him a little near the end of crawl. He'd call out number two because I'm number one. At the end of the day, we'd tally up or total up which one got the most crosses. We won that contest that day. But fleeing was one of the harder words. If I asked you to spell fleeing, hold up your hand. I don't know how many. Well, that's a hard one too, but fleeing is worse than that. No, you missed it. You got it pretty close. It's P-H-L-E-G-M. Yeah, that G, so that G is what? A Doris, you see, that's the reason. But anyway, that is one of the words we spell. But we was always glad when it come, usually on Friday evening, the teacher had let us get our nose out of the book, but he didn't want to kill the evening, he let us spell. We learned a lot of spell. One of the longest words in the red packet, Osie, honeysuckle molly pond. M-A-Y-P-E-N-S-E. You memorized it. Most everybody memorized that because we know that is going to come up in the spell. I asked Landreth, was here, if he could spell leprechaun. You remember hearing it on TV. I said, God says, can you spell leprechaun? And he made one about a stagger at us. And when he spelled at it, I said, boy, you missed it bad. L-E-P-R-E-C-H-A-U-N. And it don't spell really like fleeing, don't spell like it sounds, so that's what it feels. But that was one that you'd learn. Well, it's all part of it. Spelling's the important thing in your life. You can't write without spelling. You can't read without spelling because my teacher, Osie's teacher, says you can't pronounce it, spell it. And through spelling it would help you pronounce the word.
All right, thank you. Let's introduce another guest on our panel today, and today we're happy to have Marshall Fox. Marshall, would you tell us something about your parents and where you grew up and something about your family?
Well, I was sitting here listening to Herb He told me a lot of stuff he thinks I don't know nothing about. I've known Herb now for a long, long time.
I hold on to school.
It's hush now. Herb, when he's in high school, he went to Sevier County High School. He didn't tell you about that. But he
Osie went to college here. He went to Murphy College.
But anyhow, Herb drove a car with his, what was it, your uncle or your dad?
My dad and brother brought it.
Your dad, well, yeah. And he come up, I was born up where Walden's Creek. That's up here from Pigeon Forge, out 5 miles out there. And when I was in high school, he drove a car and hauled me and him and his
Little Aunt Dee's, you remember?
there's a girl or two. And he picked us up on Walden's Creek and drive to high school. And then school's out, they bring us back home and he's going home. But that's a long time ago, because I graduated from high school in 1933. And that's bad times, if you remember. A lot of people don't know whether you remember anything about them times or not, but I do. But Roosevelt was elected president, and he set up a program called the 3 C's, CCCs. And there's 2 companies. When I graduated from high school in 1933, then January the 1st, 1934, I came up with, they needed some boys in the CCC. A lot of them, they sent them home. You couldn't stay on there so long. And there's 12 of us up on Walden's Creek. We went up there first day of January 1934, and I stayed up there in the CCC camp. There's 1458 one camp and 250 boys in it, and 1459 there's 250 in it. I joined together, and when I went up there, my brother, there's 12 of us, they took us in to replace them boys and gone home. And when we started out, we worked for the Park Service. The boys worked for the Park Service, but then when we come in camp, we was under the Army. And but anyhow, this CCC man there, they need a man that could, Italian, you know, the Italians all were stonemason. I don't know where you ever knew any of them or not, but they were stonemasons. Most of them were Italian, so, but they need a man in the park to train the boys to cut stone. So they sent down to Knoxville and got a man come up there and be foreman, T.L. Young. He's Italian, and he went broke building the church there, Church Street Methodist Church in Knoxville. He had a contract with that. He built that and went broke, so he was out of a job. And they called him up there to train some of us boys to cut stone. And he picked me for one of his crew. So we'd go out out from the camp and cut stone, and I learned the stonemason trade from that man. And I don't know where you've seen these places or not, but I've got some pictures here of what I helped build. Was I went there, so I said, in 1933 or 34, and I learned that stonemason trade, and helped build the bridge at Elkmont, that big bridge over there at Elkmont. I learned the stonemason trade there, and I had a crew of boys. There's 50 of us in the crew, and my job was to lay the work out for them, and then I cut all the arch stones, every one of those arch stones in that four arches in that bridge over there at Elkmont. In 1937, I believe it was, when we built that. And then, after we got through with that, well, I come back, I got out of the CCCs in 1937, I believe it was. And I went to work for the Park Service. So I heard a lot of them talking about Mount LeConte here now. I know something about Mount LeConte. It'd take us up there, while I was working with the Park Service, it'd take us up to the grass patch, they called it. And we went up to Allen Cave on Monday morning, and we stayed in camp up there, and we had the little tents to stay in. There's 6 of us. I was the youngest. I had a brother-in-law that was older, and there's 6 of us, and I was the young in it. I learned how to know what they sent us up there, the wall that fell out up there around the con, and we went up there to rebuild that wall. But I know something about staying up on Mount LeConte. When I walked up there, I carried back a meal from a grass patch up there on Monday morning. And we carried the stuff to eat, and take it up there on Monday morning, and then come back off on Friday morning. And I worked up there a long time on that until that we worked out of that. And then after I come off there one day to camp, back into camp, and the superintendent told me, he said, I'm not going to let you go back up there no more. I said, why? What have I done? Well, he said, I've got another job I want to go do, and I went to, he sent me over to Mount Sterling, North Carolina, and I shaped the stone for that par tower up there. If you've seen that par tower, I shaped the stone for that par tower, and a man from North Carolina was a mason, and he set the stone in place. But it was my job to finish in work and rock them out and make them ready to lay in place. And we had CCC boys, they went down on that side of the mountain there. They'd drill down with little 3-pound hammers and the drills. They'd rock that stone out and they'd carry them up there to me, and I'd shape up the ends of it. And this other boy from North Carolina, he laid it in place. So if you see the picture of that Mount Sterling,
That's Mount Cameron he's talking about. The first tower was built in
Mount Cameron
1938.
now, but at that time it was a white rock. And I built that, I shaped the stone for that tower in 1938 when we was over there.
You also built the park headquarters as well.
Yeah, and after we got through that, come back and the contractor come to build the main park office. I shaped the stone, I laid the stone in place on that main park office up there. And that, about 1940, I guess it was. And then I thought of that cutting the stone. I set that crack in place in Newfound Gap, that Rockefeller Memorial. I set that crack in that rock. I told the superintendent up there one time we had the reunion of the CCCs, and I told him, I said, I bet you not got anybody that knows how to take that crack off of that rock. He said, I don't know anything about that. But I said, I cut that stone and that stone out to that crack and drilled a hole through that big rock that is on. And there's 4 bolts goes through there. the big as your arm, that holds that up, and then there's a place, got the manhole back of that. You go down in there and put that nuts on there, big nuts on there, hold it in place. I said, I bet you not got a man knows how to take it off there. But anyhow, I worked 3 years and 7 months in the CCC, and in the meantime, I got married while I was up there, and I married a fine little girl. She was in school, Pittman set up, being up at this school in Gatlinburg. She was going to high school up there, but I took her off away from that, took her home, and we raised two little boys. She did, but I stayed in camp a lot, worked with Park Service during that time. But she stayed there at home. We built her home there, home Walden Street, and she raised two fine boys. One of them had the Mississippi State Dean of Agriculture Engineer and everything in Mississippi State down there now. And my youngest boy, he's the head of the World Evangelism in the Methodist Church, going all over the world preaching. And he just got back from going on the trip over there. And he was 24 hours getting back home, flying home. He's that far away from home, but now he's preaching. He's a fine little boy, but now better hush, cause my daughter brought me up here. She knows a lot of stuff. She kicked her boy's shin when this was on.
That's the reason you have to walk the walking stick.
We have our fourth panelist, is Harvey Oakley. Can you tell us, Harvey, a little bit about yourself and where you came from and your parents?
Well, I've been working on these books here about, ever since I was real long years ago. And they're members of Ossie Ownby, the Rolling Mountain Mountains, and the son Harvey. And they have a lot of 8 to 10 pictures in there, and they have a lot of write-ups about my father, have a lot of them at Veta Road over there, 8 to 10, and I have Ossie Ownby in there. I got them in the archives up at Great Smoky Mountain National Park. I've got them in the archives down at the University of Tennessee. I got them in the archive. I got them in the Heritage Museum down here at Seville. And all of my dad and mother's things are down there, the antiques and Dad's old hog rifle and all his hat and all his boots and shoes and everything down there. We have, and I got pictures out here of the museum. See here. Down here at the Seville. Anybody go down there? Here's my uniform when I was in World War II in there, and my wife's WAC uniform in World War II. And have these been working on this ever way back there.
What you want for it, I'll buy it.
I've got Osie in there, and got Veta in there too, and got all these big 8 to 10 pictures, and all the pictures, and after it's all over with, if y'all want to come up and look at all these pictures and all the write-ups and everything, and be glad to tell you about them. See here, what I'm supposed to say next. Most of these is back when it was White, a lot of these pictures back when it was White Oak Flats. And right there's a family tree. The family tree. The family tree, that was when it was at Painter Branch, when we lived at Painter Branch. And yeah, I'm the second one up there, down, see that in the middle? That's me right in the middle there. I couldn't get no higher because, the brother is about to fall out. Now let me tell you about this church here is Old White Oak Flats Baptist Church. I remember when I was just a kid that went there. Osie went there. I know you went to White Oak Flats Baptist Church, didn't you?
I sure did.
Okay, there I did. And I remember bats at about dark at night there. My mother used to they used to let us out of Pi Phi school to go over there. When they'd have a revival. Let's go here to White Oak Flats Baptist Church. Now here's over a store, and I remember the old road he came into Gatlinburg. He come right along the river, all the way from Knoxville, come right up through there and went right on to Gatlinburg, and right there in front of the Oval store here. That's where I remember a lot about my growing up. Oval store. That's where we picked up chestnuts and sold them to buy our winter shoes. Brogans they call them.
Yeah.
I remember Brogans what they call them, and I remember that Charlie Oakley would go around an old wagon or something and market in Knoxville. He'd buy these old fire shoes. When they'd have a fire sale, he'd have them in old boxes back there. And I remember go down there to get my winter shoes. I remember walking barefoot down to Veta school when I first started.
Now them Brogans, both shoes was alike. There was no right and no left.
Charlie Oakley didn't know he knew I didn't have much money, so he said, go back there in them boxes and find the outer part. We used to pick up chestnuts and swap them and get her winter shoes, and we'd go barefooted till just nearly frost and get freeze off. And Dad had a bunch of kids, had 12 kids. And he couldn't buy them all shoes till it got winter time. Then we'd have to pick up chestnuts down to the Charlie Oakley store. Right there it is. There's a lot of things happening. Now, the road come from Knoxville and they forded Bastions Creek right there. And you went right up through there, all out these fields now. Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and Gatlinburg and everywhere. That's where they made their living. There wasn't nobody stayed out there, did they, Osie?
Now, George say that Charlie Oakley's wife is still alive and she's 101 years old.
Yeah, that's right. I saw her picture over in the airport when I was flying to Alabama.
Yeah.
She's got over there and
she wants me to come to see her and talk about Tom Sexton and Charlie Oakley coming up the road with a rubber tart buggy and her, she's a Maples, sitting in that buggy. They came up there, and I was a little old boy, about 5 years old, sitting on the steps over there. But I remember Charlie Oakley helping Hattie Maples out of that rubber tart buggy there. 1909 and 5 was 14, about 12 or 14.
Well, I remember there in front of Charlie Oakley's store, right here where this picture is, the old wagons and buggies would go through there. See, I'm 81 years old now. I can remember a lot of that. I remember Osie, when he used to go to school, he'd pick the banjo and the guitar. He picked the guitar a lot then, and I played a lot of music with Osie. Haven't I, Osie?
Sure have.
And,
A good band.
and I remember an old car, when they first bought the cars, they started the road down through here, out from Charlie Oakley's store, Right over here was a White Oak Flats Baptist Church. And I remember we'd get out there about dark, we'd take these old planks, and the bats was coming out of the belfry out there, and we'd knock them down with planks. I'd get bats down with planks, and the old cars come down through here, and I remember one coming down there and run through that creek and it drowned it out. I think it was an old A model or T model one, I see it for it was. They pulled it out with a mule or a horse or something I can remember back then. And I guess I better tell a little more about my dad. Bill Ownby showed him on the cow barn story there, and up there where he told about, where they took the picture of the cow barn story, and Bill Ownby and them did, was here at the old Noy Bud Ogle place. That's my mother's old home place. And the Noy Bud Ogle place. And Pearson over but over the place. The Park Service has this thing here over them, and that's my mother right up there on the left, right on the right of me. And here's her ancestors too. See, I'm half Ogle instead of Oakley, and there's her ancestors. Where they have the museum up in Gatlinburg. Herb knows all about this. He's still over on I'm kin to our ancestors came from the Ogle, the first Ogles in Gatlinburg, and they still have the building up there.
Mr. Oakley, you might want to tell about the trading for the sweet tea.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell. When I worked for the National Park Service, and till I retired, I had 33 years service, except one in World War II. Then I have this in this book. Let me tell a little more about this book here. I have the story of my life. I have a story of my life in here. Story of my life. And then I have this year, Great Smoky's Drama. We used to put in years ago, and I played my dad's part in it while I lived it. Now back there at Scratch Bridges Mountain, that was Osie knows where that is. I'm back there when I was
Better talk to me. I don't know about it.
Scratch Bridges Mountain, where Dad was at Scratch Bridges Mountain. I was back there. Barney Oakes helped me back there and showed me the old house where Dad and mother moved to when they got married, Scratch Bridges Mountain. And I was back there in the old building, the old roof still, the logs are still there. That was back when I was working for the National Park Service. The old logs are still there, and the roof's gone, but at Scratch Bridges Mountain, where he moved, where the store is about the cowboy store, it's still there. Now I want to tell you a little about myself. I'm 81 years old now, and I was born January 6th, 1918, and back there in an old log cabin, and Barney was a midwife, and she couldn't even read or write, so she marked me up as female. I found out when Let me tell a tale when we moved to Painter Branch. I found Painter Branch here. I found Painter Branch. I'm going to tell you a tale about Painter Branch. That's when we really had time to stay warm during the winter. I can't find it now.
They got stuff on Painter Branch.
Hey, they're talking about the school men Herb and Osie went to. High-Five School, see it there? The old school building? We all went to that. That white building down the background. Wait a minute, I'll find the old. There it is. Now I'm going to tell a story about Painter Branch. It's hard to stay warm. Let's see, that's me right there. Painter Branch. Now boy, it was a rough building. I remember a copperhead fell out of the books in an old box, and my brother shot his head off in the kitchen and had a big hole about that big around in the floor. Look at how you can tell it's a pretty rough place to live. We moved in there, we had to go around and daub up all the old cracks, you know, and so it wouldn't freeze to death in the wintertime. And I remember the old chimneys we'd go out the branch, get mud and stuff, and we'd daub up the old chimney. Bugs would go through, you know, and you build a fire in there, the smoke goes coming out them bug holes. And the old chimneys, and my sisters, why, in the wintertime, you know, my sisters, take newspapers, you know, newspapers back in the old days, this way back before the Smoky Mountain National Park, you know. My sister would take these old newspapers, just paste them with flour paste all over the walls, you know. We try to keep us from freezing to death, and we cooked in the fireplace, and we finally got a stove in another little kitchen over there, and I remember to sleep in the bed, you know, and about 2 or 3 to the bed, and had a small one while we put him at the foot of the bed. The baby had a smaller one, put him at the foot of the bed. And they blew them newspapers all around the wall. We daubed up all the cracks first, you know, to keep them freezing up in winter time. And then I remember the ceilings was real low, and you could lay in the bed and read Mutt and Jeff. Jeff, on the phone. You remember Mutt and Jeff, don't you?
Jeff's still on.
And right in front of the fireplace, now this, I remember Christmas time, you know, in Christmas, we had an old organ. The school would give it to us, I believe. The firefighter would give us this old organ. My sisters would play it, and my brother Elmer and Dad would play the harmonica, you know. And we'd gather around, we'd play that and sing Christmas songs. And from the fireplace, you had to take up, I remember they had an old thing with the dirt thing around like that. You keep your apples and potatoes and stuff down there, keep them freezing. And I remember you skip them potatoes out and roast them in the fire, you know. We have old Dutch ovens, you know, to rake the coals over and the fire coals over, you know. And boy, you take about cornbread and that old sour bread, it tastes good. Put in them old Dutch ovens, wouldn't it?
Sure did.
And I remember we'd play it outside, we'd play it, jump the leapfrog, you know, and cut all the stumps down out there, the trees to keep warm. And I remember you stand in front of the fireplace when you had a big fire going, you'd burn to death in front and freeze to death in the back. Turn around, turn around, turn around.
Our black old fire boy won't let his people go.
And
All right, Herb, do you remember some things that you did, maybe as a teenager or as a young man that you'd like to share with us?
Look, we're down on that before cleaning, we're supposed to be over 4:15.
Well, is that someplace to go?
Yeah, I gotta go home.
Well, share with us just quickly then.
We'll catch that some other time. Most of the time, I think we're supposed to talk about the Smokies, not ourselves. I can talk all day about myself, but all it's boring to me to start talking about myself.
Okay, then talk about the Smokies. We'd like to hear something about that.
Well,
You'd like to share with us.
We're supposed to start with Osie and go back to that.
We hear about the Smoky Mountains now. I can talk about the Smoky Mountains because I'm a mountaineer. I grew up in the Smoky Mountains. My grandfather told me a lot of things about the Smoky Mountains. I learned a lot by old entertainers, old men. I talk about questioning old people and finding out about different things.
Tell us about the Standing Rock. Where's the Standing Rock?
Yeah, that's a rock about halfway up to Indian Gap. It's on the right-hand prong.
The old road across the Smoky.
Yeah, the old road. And my grandfather, he carried the mail across the Smoky Mountains along about 1868 to 70, I would say. He carried the mail from Sevierville, Tennessee to Cashier Valley, North Carolina. It took him about 2 or 3 days to make the trip, but going up the old road there's a big old rock there, and it's as wide as from here over to this first row of people there. It's a big old rock, it's about that wide, right at the side of the road there. And it was about 3 foot thick. I remember, we was up there, me and Herb was up there. I climbed up on top of it. just tell my grandfather that I did something, by God, and that's standing rock. It's quite a mountain, quite a rock up on the mountain up there.
It was a landmark, and growing across the mountain, you had to find something that everybody knew. You either had an accident above the standing rock or below the standing rock. That was one of the main points. And if you get to talking across, and it is then not the way the road goes, but it goes up what's called road column and up through the Indian Gap. But it was, like he said, looked like a column, and that wasn't hardly as high, but anyway, everybody knew where the standing rock was. And if any incident happened, like his grandfather, my grandfather's the same man, we're first cousins. Anyway, my grandfather going across is something following him along. And he could hear it hit the ground, seemed like it felt the ground once in a while. And they said, of course, he's allowed to carry a gun. That was way before he ever thought about a part. Anyway, said he pulled out his gun and shot right where he heard that last. And he never heard it anymore, but said he'd come back by across the mountain. He decided he would go see, and he thought it was a painter. We call it painter, leaving part of the spelling out of the painter. Anyway, he went out there and he found it, and he shot it, and it was a big rabbit. But that is the reason I mentioned Standing Rock, is that a lot of the people don't know it is. It's a lost thing now. Like a lot of our names in the Smokies is lost. The Gun Stand is probably lost. Now, let's not name any, I'll not get in, but a lot of they're losing the old names of the places. It used to be in Cheeky Pen. Cheeky Pen may be losing its name. Cheeky Pen, you know where Cheeky Pen is. Yeah. Let some of our other blah, blah, blah. Herbert, tell them about the Shelter Rock on Roaring Fork.
Shelter Rock.
Tell them about what?
Shelter Rock on Roaring Fork.
There's one rock up to old John Reagan place they call it the Lives Rock. Some of them mention about caves in the Smokies. We don't have caves in the Smokies. We have hangover rocks we call cave. One of them is out of the cave here. We've got another, the Quilliams Cave. A lot of you have not been there. You ought to go. The Quilliams Cave, you could put a big trailer in Quilliams Cave, just a hangover rock. Another on the Roaring Fork, we call it the Lives Rock. That people are traveling up and down, and it come a rain or something, give them a good place to lay in. There, I know one fellow and his girlfriend catched it pretty rough, and they laid in there all night under the Lives Rock in the leaves. We had another rock called the Wolf Rock. And not many knows where the Wolf Rock at, but how come it got its name. Man hunting up in there after Reagan to run a gang of wolves out from under this. That's back in wolf times. That's before they went off the gray wolf. And they always call it the Wolf Rock. We'd go to Wolf Rock. It's a good place to camp out because you could always get in. You go camping sometime and it's pretty clear, but during the night it may come up a rain. You need somewhere. We didn't have tents. And we didn't have no plastic to cover with, so you just really got wet unless you had a holler log to crawl in or a rock. So the Wolf Rock is a good place to camp. People used it as a campground. That was on the road, upper end of the Roaring Fork section. But most of the rocks on the Roaring Fork are just rocks in the road and rocks in the field. You travel that road and find rocks piled up. They're out in the forest now. You wonder what's going on. They pile them up to get by the cornfield. They had to have the field, like I say, corn was a staff of life. You had to have your corn, so they pile the rocks up, plow around them, and usually pile a little rock on the big rock. Because they couldn't move the big rock, so they just covered up a little rock.
Did any of you work on the road crews when they worked on the road?
You mean back when they, what is to call it, Osie, when you,
All everybody had to work on the roads. They didn't pay taxes, but
Yeah. Oh,
they worked on the roads instead.
that was the group. They warned everybody between, I believe, 21 and 45, you had to spend a week working on your road. You remember it? Yeah, a week, and a lot of times I was getting up about 16, pretty good day's work. Anyway, I reckon that didn't count to somebody else, but my brother teaching school, and they wanted him to pay you could pay in $6 or work 6 days. Most of us rather work 6 days because we knew we didn't have to get on $6. So my brother would hire me to work in his place. But one thing about it, they never did make you work above your place. But you lived starting up a road, you get up so far, you stopped there. You had to put yours down here. They'd start there in another group. But I lived on the head of the rolling fork, so that put me work all the way up. But they did have 6 sections. I read one old book where they had the wharf in the sugar lands, or wharf in, and one group worked it up to the wharf, another start the wharf and work on up to the goober farm. Maybe another started work on up, but they'd let you work below your house. It was just something the government does. I don't know who said it up, but you either had to work 6 days on the road, or you paid $6, and if you didn't, I don't know, nobody's been working, but I know.
Hey, does anybody know anything about
That one Turkey Rock I know was on the Cold Mountain. You know that, the Turkey Rock?
That's the one.
It's on Rail Matrix Road.
Yeah, on the Cold Mountain, yeah.
You know what the significance of that rock is?
Well, the most of significance is everything. Like a turkey's nest in Gatlinburg. They had found a turkey's nest there, and they picked it up from that. See, we've got a turkey's nest in Gatlinburg. They're going towards where Harvey's talking about, going up Mill Creek, we call it Concrete Down. There's a section in there, but it is it's cut out in the hill, sort of the shape of a turkey's nest. But I've always seen my great-grandma, my great-grandma moved out of the turkey's nest, and they had a bastion. Took her 3 boys, which was Levy and Preston and Job. And they moved on above, they moved up to the Little Crest Graveyard where she moved out of the turkey's nest. And that was about the time that our great-grandpap went into the Civil War, and he never made it back, and she took her kids and went to the head of Basin, and she lived in the turkey's nest up a bird. Turkey's nest, most of these places gets their name from some incident that happened.
Okay, you mentioned a name, and a lot of people in the room may know, but some people may not know what the Goober Farm is.
The Goober Farm, we called it, but I guess we called it through the CC that we were talking about.
Yeah, my dad
was up where the picnic area is at.
My dad was foreman when they built this Goober Farm. He was over at my CC's building, and they built it back there, and they called it the Goober Farm. Then they built a campground there and had the fish hatchery there. Then he was over the CC's when they built Allen Cave Trail, and he's the one that took it through Arch Rock. You know, that you go up to Arch Rock, went through there. And he blazed a few trails. He blazed trail from Mount LeConte down the Indian Gap Road with help the fellas blazing, and different trails. The old trail to Mount LeConte used to go right up the creek, and you just climb up over the rocks, right on the Mount LeConte. You all remember that?
The Goober Farm is the Chimney Campground where the Chimney picnic area is now. Osie.
Your grandfather's name was David Ogle, wasn't it?
Yes.
David Ogle. Well, I'm to tell you and everybody else that David Ogle, when he was a young man, him and a Whaley, yeah, they were young fellas, and they're working at Elkmont. but they had ordered rainbow trout fingerlings, little things, from Irwin, Tennessee, I believe. And they had a congressman to do that order for them. Well, the trout was sent by rail to Knoxville and up to Elkmont then. And they picked the trout, the 3 or 4 barrels, not a great big barrel, just a little barrel of rainbow trout. And they brought those rainbow trout in a wagon across and down Fighting Creek and down and up Sugar Land. They went up to about a mile up Sugar Land. Now this is what your grandfather told me. Now this is interesting to me now, because before then there was no rainbow trout in the streams of the Smoky Mountains. There's the eastern brook trout there. Grandpap called them mountain trout. You could catch the mountain trout or catch a load of them because they invited anything. But now the rainbow hadn't been deposited. The Park Service might be interested in this, and then they might not.
Well, it's proved to be a little...
I'm telling you what they told me, and it's interesting. They said we put about a dozen in one pool, they put about a dozen in another pool. They kept putting a dozen on up through the river there in the Sugar Land. By golly, in 2 years, those minnows grew to be 18 inches long. And they devoured all the small branch minnows that was originally in the river there to grow on. Now that's history. If you want to hear some history, you heard it then.
Well, about the time they did provide more fish in the streams, and they did grow faster. They were larger than the mountain stream, but the bad side of that is they sort of took over and moved the native trout out. Now we're trying to reintroduce the native trout back and get rid of the European rainbow trout. But yes, my grandfather did bring it. Okay, we're going to take about a 5-minute break, but Osie and I believe Harvey's going to pick a little bit for us while we take a little break from the panel discussion.
Was cooking along about then. I was in, we played a lot of music. I worked at Archie Campbell about 7 years, and we had a lot of fun. And if you're an entertainer, you got to have a big mouth. You got to be able to tell some jokes, and you got to be able to sing and do some things with your mouth. It went to coming to me, and I got to learn a lot of jokes and landing. Now, here's a good joke for you. It's going to be funny. I hope you laugh. These 3 skeletons got up out of the grave one night. They're sitting around on the tombstones there talking like skeletons do. They got to have something to do, you know. This person said to the second, says, you know, Bones, I've been seeing you around this graveyard here for the last 35 years. And I often wonder what killed you. And Bones said, I died with the flu back in 1918. But what got you? And this person said, I died of TB. And this third skeleton, he's sitting over on the side of the graveyard there on the stump over there. This person hollered over and said, hey, Scatty. You know that's short for skeleton. Hey, Scatty, what'd you die with? And Scatty said, it was sinus trouble. And this person said, no, you mean sinus trouble. He said, no, it was sinus trouble. I was out the other night running around with another fellow's wife, and he's seen us.
Okay, now, I have some questions for this lovely panel. Who has a few questions? Yes, here's one right here on the right here.
Any of you gentlemen ever make any shine?
Never made any shine. I never made no shine in my life. No, I didn't. You didn't either.
Down the holler, and one of our first cousins had a big moonshine liquor still going there.
Yeah, but we didn't make it. It's him.
I said, now what's going on here? He said, we're making up molasses. You always get on going home now. We're little fellas, you know. We went home right away, and later on I found out they was making moonshine. By God, they had it there, and it was dripping out, and it was smelling good too. But they didn't give me a bite of it. But there's a police officer followed me all my life. I'm wondering, who made that moonshine up there? Where is he? And can I go and arrest him? And I said, you better leave him alone. He'll beat the devil out of you if you get after him. Big Harvey Oakley, but he's a big one.
Questions on this side? Anyone? Herb, did you bring your harmonica with you today?
Yeah, family here.
Okay.
Why youngs, get ready, I'll make some music.
All right. Let me check one more. Let me check. Herb, let me check one more time now. See if there's any more questions now before we. There's one right over there, Ms. McBride. Would you catch those two over there? Hold it just a second, Herb.
I just want to know if Osie would tell a bear tale.
You know bear tale?
Osie,
Huh?
this young man over here wants you to tell a bear tale.
A bear tale? Well, I can tell him a deal. Everybody, when I was a little boy growing up, every young man around told me, a bear, if you get out in the woods and go anywhere, mountain trails, a bear will catch you and eat you up. Well, I asked my grandfather in his old days, they tell me the truth. Grandfather said, no, they're lying to you. That a bear we never knowed of a bear chasing a man and catching him and killing him and eating him in the Smoky Mountains. That's what my grandfather said. Well, by golly, I knew the fellows were lying to me. Well, I was trout fishing, coming down Rolling Fork, and I looked over the rock wall there, and here's 3 big bears coming right through the field right there. And I throwed my fishing pole down and ran down the road a little ways. This big old bear looked across the rock fence there, and he started after me right down the road. I thought he was after me. He just going down the road. He didn't know I was down there. I picked me up some rocks and threw it at him and got to barking at him. He reared back and looked at me, and he turned around and up the road he went, and the other 2 right by him and right out in the woods and across the creek, and they broke a rail fence going up the hill up there. Now that's a bear tale, that's true.
Any other questions on this side? There's one right here.
Take it. Miss McBride will get you right there.
Question for her.
Hey, Herb.
Question for her.
Herb, one more question here.
Herb, do you think maybe we could clarify our traffic problems, bumper to bumper, going back to your system? If you work, you don't pay taxes?
I know you find out what you want.
Says if you work, you don't pay taxes. You're our traffic problem.
There was no taxes, you paid them except land taxes. Back when I was boy, the only land you paid taxes, which run most of the farmers run $8 or $10 tax. But that's on the tax. But you did pay a poll tax if you got to vote. And if you didn't pay this $1 poll tax to the county, you didn't vote. One fella come off of Coal Mountain, and he got a poll tax. Went to vote, where's the poll tax? Go into town. So when you're not going to get to vote, this was a Republican come to vote in a Democrat deal, and they said, well, you go back on the mountain and get the poll tax. And he said he walked from back to Coal Mountain, which is about 3 miles, and when he got back, he said, I could eat a Democrat. But that's only if you wanted to vote, you bought a poll tax. And a lot of these people that run a politician that buy a poll tax for the old mule and the old mare and everything, you give it to somebody and you vote on the old mare's poll tax. But they cost you $1 a day's work. Back then you worked 10 hours, you got $1, you give it to county to get the vote. And that's the only tax that I know except you pay your land tax.
Okay, Veta, it's all yours.
Three Little Birds is a good one.
And you play the key
Now
down.
that's an old tune. I heard that when I was 5 years old. I learned to play it on a little old banjo that my grandfather made out of a chalk box. You know what a chalk box was at school? Yeah, he took the chalk box and made a little handle to it there, and we found some battery wire somewhere and keep the thing up, and I got to playing Three Little Birds. Way back yonder when I was a little bitty monk. Three Little Birds. This is a frailing, we call it frailing, the banjo there. It was popular back when I was young. When I was a young boy growing up, there was nobody that picked the banjo. They all frailed. And there's an old fella come over and brought a banjo. My grandfather didn't hold with people playing the banjo back in that day and time. Someone sung a dirty song, and he wouldn't let him come in the house anymore. He didn't want to come in and play that instrument because it was the instrument of the devil, wasn't it? Yeah, Lord. But
it's a good instrument today's buying. They thought that was the devil's hooting.
Way back there, they had notions, but I learned to play it on that chalk box, and then finally I got growing up, and some of the boys in Gatlinburg, they come a band down there. Harvey might have been in the bunch there, but they wanted me to bring my guitar and come up and play with them. And I played the guitar and sung quite a bit. And then I got to needing to learn to play the banjo. I got wanting to learn to play the banjo. I better give that up.
Everybody, this is Osie's brother, special brother Oswald. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, Brother Oz, he's been with Roy about all his life, and Roy died out, and some more of them died out, and all like to died. He had cancer in his jaw, and the doctor did a very sorry job of repairing his jaw. His mouth, he can't hardly talk now, and if you see him on television, he shows this side here. He won't show the side that was operated. I seen him about a week ago in Nashville down there. He was, I'm sorry he had that cancer on his jaw there. But Brother Ossie, he went royal up all over the world. They was in Europe. They did a lot of entertainment. But at my age now, I'm 89 years and about half. Now, let me tell you, I've been chopping wood and driving a tractor on the farm and doing farm work. And you can't do that and play the banjo. You got to work on that banjo about 2 or 3 days a week if you stay up on it. I'm sorry that I couldn't play some tunes that I used to play.
Let's see, which end you start on? Let's see what I was aiming to play something and forgot it now. That is, reckon 97, ain't it? Little man, the gray, I'll tell you that. Oh, my darling, little gray. It takes a lot of hair to go.
I'm going to sing a fugue song now, back in the mountain fugue song. Sand on the clock, I've been sitting on the rock, shooting everything inside. Now I shot a coy and a dozen mountain boys. This kill ain't you give me an appetite. He said, pass the biscuits, Randy. I'm just as hungry as sin. Pass the biscuits, Randy. And me the sop of men. And he heard the rifle crack and the bullet hit the shack. Another broke the dishes on the shelf. He grabbed his trusty gun, for the battle had begun, and knew that he must protect himself. He said, pass the biscuits, Randy. I'm gonna load up my gun. I'll use your biscuits for bullets. I'll put them varmints on the run. Then he put a ton of black powder in his gun. Then he crammed the biscuits into place. Then he took aim. My goodness, what a shame. Bang, the gun exploded in his face. He says, darn your biscuits, Randy. I know that I'm gonna die. Darn your biscuits, Randy. I knew they would get me by.
Good man.
he must protect himself. He said, pass the biscuits, Randy. I'm gonna load up my gun. I'll use your biscuit for bullets. I'll put them varmints on the run. Then he pulled a ton of black powder in his gun. Then he crammed the biscuits into place. Then he took aim. My goodness, what a shame. Bang, the gun exploded in his face. He says, darn your biscuits, Randy. I know that I'm gonna die. Darn your biscuits, Randy. I knew they would get me by.